Inside the Mind from Noah from the Aviary franchise under Hawks. Noah, I don't know your position under the Hawks, so can you explain that a
Yeah.
little bit to me so I know better?
Yeah. I was the IGL captain for the Hawks this season. Kind of took the more of the leadership position there for the season. This is my second season with them. Last season I was kind of more of just like a secondary caller, support rifler. But I've always wanted to call. So like last season we kind of like I guess developed me, I guess you could say, with the secondary calling role, which I would say is pretty beneficial if you're looking to be an IGL. Definitely being able to be a secondary caller under a main caller is really helpful. And then, yeah, I mean, going into the combines for this season, I made a name for myself by calling, and it kind of stuck with that.
Okay. So going into the combines, you were part of Aviary, and you were planning on staying with them through this season. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
You are on a team with Dirt McGirt, Clancy Losiel. Am I pronouncing
Yeah,
that right? Losiel and
yeah, those,
Dank
yeah.
Ranger. Who was your IGL last season with Aviary? Do you? Well, obviously you
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. So last season, actually, going into this season, I was the only keeper for the team. So last season we had four guys. My IGL last season was Monty.
Okay.
He's not playing anymore, but he was pretty solid last season. He was with ATL for a little bit, and then got traded mid to late season. But yeah, so he was our main caller, and then Shade, who's now on our prospect team for AVI. He also was kind of like a secondary caller. We kind of like would exchange the role here and there. So I was under them too. Now all of my teammates either they stopped playing or they moved up. So like AVI this season for recruit at least was in a really like interesting spot of like building a team basically around me and what I wanted to build and things like that. So that's kind of how this season panned out.
Okay. To go with a deeper question, did you learn from any other IGLs besides Monty?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We actually made a pickup from a franchise decision to pick up Orca as our AGM. And he's also, in my opinion, probably one of the best IGLs in the whole league. His brain for the game is just insane. So, like, developing me in the season, I'll even show, like, for the interview. I mean, I have a whole notebook
Okay.
of a bunch of like, stuff that we've gone over and things like that for the season and, like, maps breakdown and things like that. He's been a huge help for my development. And this just for the franchise as a whole. I mean, it's not known to anyone, but AVI is kind of full of like the best minds in the league, I would say, in all of our tiers. They kind of all just like gave me their own knowledge to benefit my game and then help me teach the players around myself.
Okay. Would you say, well, since you've had two mentors, Monty and your AGM,
Orca.
Orca, there you go, Orca Will. Learning from Monty, it's benefited you to becoming an IGL. Do you see
Yeah.
yourself, do you like the IGL position enough to continue being an IGL?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that um, being an in-game leader just has a lot of benefits. I mean, it's also got some cons too, so it's about finding the balance. I enjoy it because, like, my main goal, especially in recruit, because it's kind of more vibes and getting to know people and things like that. So, if I can teach someone how to do something a little bit better, or maybe there's a better way to do it, or something like that, or any questions, like being their IGL or captain or leader allows me that opportunity, and I want to be able to teach, you know, what I know for the game to everyone else. Um, but yeah, I think that role just kind of fits that for me. With that being said, I mean, in terms of like getting in the game and in the matches and things like that, it's like, at least for myself, feels really nice to just have four other people on your team, just like have complete trust in what you're calling, what you say. Like, I was lucky enough to have four players that just like I could say something so stupid and they'd be like, okay, let's do it. because like they have complete trust in what I'm calling, even if it works, if it doesn't work, things like that. So I think that's like the main pro for myself of what I like to call for. I think the only con I can think of, and this just kind of ties into what type of player you are when you call and things like that, is the IGL term and role has a lot of like, I don't know, meaning behind it, and there's a lot of different styles in how you call, and some people do or don't like how you call. Some people think that maybe I call a little bit more micromanagey, but at least from all the players that I've heard from that have been under my calling, they like that because then they don't have to think, they just listen and then they do it. So and then also like being able to calm, think, and still shoot, I think that's the hardest thing that opens the door into being a good caller and not a good caller. But I'd say that's really the only con. But I'm like in the future of the season, and as long as I keep playing in the league, I would probably keep pushing to be a caller.
Okay. You obviously said that you want to keep being a caller. Do you have somebody specific in mind that you want to learn more from? I believe it's Colney with the Upsetty Spaghetti.
Yeah.
He has a good reputation for IGLing.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody in mind that you would like to learn and take notes from specifically?
To be honest, it's just keep learning as much as I can from my AGM. And this is no hate to any of the, recruit guys that are the IGLs, but in my opinion and from what, everyone else has kind of been saying, but like I would say I'm near the top of the recruit IGLs. So, I mean, I still like playing with them and seeing how they call and things like that, but I wouldn't really say there's anything to learn from per se. And that's not any hate. That's just because we're kind of on an equal playing field. But like, Orca's been in the league a long time. He's been, championships, things like that. So he's got that aspect. And then he also just played a shit ton of Counter-Strike. Can I cuss?
I don't know. I will shout out the editor at this moment in time, Queenie, Jakey. They've been doing an excellent job. I don't know if they're going to bleep things. If it was up to me, I would keep it in. But hopefully it's not up to me. If it gets bleeped, it gets bleeped. I mean, say what you want to say. People can piece things together on their own.
I gotcha. But yeah, so like I think just being able to be in the franchise and learning as much as I can from him, that's probably who I would want to keep learning from in terms of calling.
Okay. Now, roster-wise, Dirt McGirt, Clancy, Lociel, and Dank Ranger. I haven't, to my knowledge, asked this question. You can only have 4 keepers going into the next season. I'm not asking who you plan on cutting, but how do you plan on shaping the team for next season to maybe get to finals?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and this kind of goes in with what I was saying earlier, but, in this league, there's a lot of players that like to jump from team to team, things like that. They have their own things. So, like, it's very tough. And, I mean, because we have a longer off season, especially, like, I'm not going to be the guy that asks them right now, hey, like, what's your plans 2 months from now if you were to play? So that's why I've done my best to teach them all the things I have. I continue to, if they have questions now, to help them, things like that. So then they want to pursue different things or get out of the league or go to a different team, like I can help them for that. As of this moment, I wouldn't really say there really is anything, because to be honest with you, if anything, it's the roles reversed, because this is my second season under AVI. So technically speaking, I'm not under contract and they are still. So like it would just be switched. I mean, not saying that is what's going to happen because I don't know, but I would say if I can have it my way, yeah, there are. They're all really great players, to be honest with you. I think that Dank already did tell me that I think he won't be playing next season, so that's an unfortunate miss. But yeah, Clancy's a phenomenal player. Seal is one of the best other best minds of the game. He really understands the game on a deep level, which is one of the reasons I picked him up. Dirt, came in and made a great change to the team. I think Dirt's also a really good player. So to be honest with you, all my players are pretty solid. But I do know that because of the reputation I've built, there's a lot of players on other teams and things like that want to play under me. And I've been made aware, so that doesn't help as well. We'll just have to see where the offseason takes us.
You guys had many roster changes throughout the season, is that correct?
Yeah, we did. I want to say off the top of my head, going into the season, we already didn't have a 5 roster. We had to pick up an FA to start the season. And then with that roster, then we kept going. And then we had another roster switch probably about, it was like match day 6, I want to say. Kept going. And then we had another roster switch about match day 8. Definitely wasn't what I was looking to do. I think in this season and specifically as well with the CS2 change coming in after match day 1 and us and all the teams being forced to play, it ruled the question of being like, am I even still as good as I was on Go as I am on 2 for a lot of players? Or if they even want to play anymore because it's on CS2 because they didn't play CS2. Now, in my particular thing, it was like, because of the changes, it was very much, and because like match day 6, we were kind of still competitive and still fighting like, you know, for a playoff spot, things like that. Of course, we want to win. So we had a team meeting, I guess you could say, of what direction we want to go. And there was a particular player that helped us, being Seal. And he made a difference. Even though we lost the game, he was making a considerable difference that we just weren't seeing in the other spot. So that was an easy pickup. And then going from there, we had an in-house roster change because one of my guys had to go on IR. Something came up personally. Shout out to Chuck if you're listening. But yeah, so it wasn't what I wanted because last season I basically went through the same thing as on the backside. Just we had like 3 roster changes halfway through the season, and it's very tough to like keep momentum going and expect you to do any better when you have someone coming in at match day 7 and they have to learn everything all over again. But I look forward to that not happening next season. Fingers crossed, but you know, it is what it is.
Did AVI make it to the semifinals?
We did not. We were number 9 on the 1 through 12. We were tied with Hellfire. We were both 5 and 6, but they beat us on a head-to-head from match day 1, which was in CSGO. That was kind of a whole situation. From my side, you know, speaking out now, I think it is a little iffy that the league still kept all of the match day 1s still in part of the record because now we're playing a completely different game. But on the other side of that, it's like, it was still a match that was played and it still did count. They still did beat us. I was vouching for us to maybe do a rematch, but I found out that admins don't like that. They don't like replays of matches that have already happened. So it kind of just shot that down from there. The only thing that really kind of ticked my team's gears is that out of all the teams like in the bottom with losing records, we were the only team with a positive round win percentage, a positive round win differential. The biggest deficit that we ever lost to was 5 rounds. Like, we never were blown out. We always kept it the competitive game, which I think that's what stings a little bit more. We were right there. We just had like one less person activate one game or, you know, something like that. So I think that's what made it sting a little bit more, and also on top of the loss being because of a CSGO match. But you can't change it. I still think that even if we probably did replay it, Hellfire probably still would have beat us because they're a really good team as well. It would have been definitely a close game just like it was on Go. But I told them that they earned it fair and square and that they shouldn't be helping their hand out for us to get a chance because they did earn the spot.
Since it was Go, I do have the match results pulled up here. And it was 16-13, so that was a close game. That was also before they made their roster change to cut Brian out of there.
Yeah.
And pick me up. But you, as an IGL, that game, you dropped 21 kills against them, which was impressive being an IGL.
Yeah.
With 30
it was a good
effective
game.
flashes. Yeah. So you guys definitely, that was a tough game that you guys played against them. That's
and they knew a lot of ancient.
Saying that, they do play a decent ancient, and I think it definitely fell off when 2 came around. Because I was there after the switch to 2, and we tried ancient, but it could have been my play style, it could have been the way I played. I can take blame in that. I was cut for
I was going to say, it didn't feel the same.
I was cut. Everything was different about 2 and Go, so I can take the blame there. I was cut for a reason. So, that being said, looking past all the matches of last season, not being able to make it to finals, unfortunately, what are your goals for the next season?
I feel like it was a little ambitious, but I at least want to have the opportunity to play for it. So
Either recruit or prospect, you're aiming for that chip, huh? Go with the flow kind of guy. Glass half full, huh? Now, I have here, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, a season record of 4-7. 5-6.
there was I had, but
you guys won against UPS.
no,
Anubis?
we lost that game.
Oh, it's 0-0 for Nan, so maybe that's something that they didn't lose. Okay. Looking at also your past matches, it looks like you guys played a lot of Ancient, Anubis, and Overpass. Had 2 matches. You guys played Inferno once.
Yeah.
What would you say would be your strongest map as a team?
I play a lot more pug maps.
I guess diving a little bit deeper into your statement of people wanting to play more puggy maps, would you guys say that you are a team that likes to pug a lot, being so comfortable on Overpass? I know Anubis and Ancient aren't really puggy maps.
Definitely not.
You guys did do 13-9 against FRG on Inferno though, which I would consider a puggy map. So would you say that your team likes the puggy feeling of CS2?
Yeah, I definitely think that for the first question, if we just pug in general, as a captain and leader of the team, it definitely is like a forefront of what I'm looking for in players and things like that. You know, being able to play the game, practice the game. I think for our Inferno, to be honest with you, and we talked about this after the game, we went into CS2 and we were like, okay, let's practice Inferno. We practiced Inferno for like one day and we're like, okay, we're fine. And then we get into that game, and that game we had our sub, and like everything we learned just went out the window because we never played it because we were trying to practice our other maps, which was on me as the captain of the team, not putting it more of a front-facing idea for us to play it. But also, I didn't think that Frog would have taken us to Inferno, and they did, so they caught me off guard there. But even still, I mean, with our lack of like super duper knowledge of the map, switching from CS2, it was still also a 4-round deficit. So like, that's one thing that I applaud all my guys for, is that we never were blown out. They always kept it a competitive game, which just goes to the mental fortitude of my players, constantly wanting to stay in it. But I think that for the puggy maps in general, like even Mirage, we only saw once in regular season, and then we saw it twice in postseason, which is insane. And then Inferno, I think we saw it twice or 3 times in regular season and never in postseason, which is just like not how I thought the game was gonna go. So it's interesting.
I know after I was cut from Frog, Jeff or Toast brought up that obviously they were changing their map pools and they were bringing in Mirage, which was kind of crazy to me how much Prodigy Toast or Kevin absolutely despise Mirage. I was shocked that was getting through the cracks there. But
yes, he does.
It kind of goes to show that they were willing to sacrifice that, I guess I wouldn't say uncomfortability of that map, but they were willing to give it a shot with their setup. And coming from Frog, or Frog in general, they're just a puggy team. They're constantly playing. I'm in their Discord still. They're constantly looking for players. With that being said, would you guys as a team practice off season, or do you think it's kind of time to take a small breather and then get back into it when combines roll around?
Yeah, I mean, actually, even when our season was like over, so after the last match of regular season, when postseason was starting, I had 4 or 5 teams reach out to scrim us because they knew that we were one of the tougher teams to play against, and I gave the options to the guys, and we did 2 scrims against 2 teams, and I think that was good for myself. So then, I still kind of showed the guys that, hey, like, you still got to play the game. You're still good opponents and things like that. And it was nice because when you beat that team as a team that's not in playoffs, like, you're just crushing that team's mental because they just lost to a team that isn't in playoffs. So that's nice. But like, I think I told them, like, let's take a little bit because, especially with this off season, it's so close with the holidays. So like, are people even going to be on to begin with? So I think that's the question. But yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to have them just wait till the combines to start playing. I've kept my advice or any questions that they have completely open. If they have anything they want to ask, I'm always down to play. I'm on pretty often. A lot of the recruit guys are still playing during this off season. I probably is going to keep playing like that. And then combines is just going to make it even better because, recruit stays up till 4 o'clock in the mornings playing combines.
You guys are some DJs, that's for sure.
Yeah.
especially Jeff, man. Most DJing of them all.
Yeah, he's going to shoot for, I think he's going to shoot for 40 combines this season,
I know there was a competition between him and someone else.
Colin.
To play the most combines, and I personally thought that I was going to stay on Frog, so I played 4, and that was it. And it hurt me in the long run. I should have played more because I had the time, but I just.
I always recommend signed players to play because, like, for my position and captains across the board, or even just players across the board, like, you playing with the new set of DEs that are coming in, like, you just get to get a direct experience with someone and see, like, especially if it's a bad game. I love playing games that were getting crushed because then you just get to learn, like, what's these guys' mental? How do they tilt? Do they tilt? Do they still stay positive? Things like that. Like, you learn a lot from playing combines, signed or not. And then even still, like, if you're signed and in your position, like you said, like, you thought you were going to stay on Frog and unfortunately didn't end up panning that way. But since you only had 4 combines, like, you're known, Bashi. I'm not going to say you're not known, but like, it keeps you still looking more appetizing, I guess you could say, to other GMs because you're still actively playing. Like, I know Jeff has talked about it, that he thinks that there should be a combine requirement for signed players just like there is for DEs, which I also vouch for. I think there should be as well, especially because combines go for so long. And I think that if you can't play 3 or 5 games, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So absolutely, I think combines are super important and everyone should play them.
And there were no combine requirements for a signed player, but I did just want to play the 3, just to see where I ranked over some other people, just to, I guess, make myself look more appetizing.
Absolutely.
In the long run, I should have played a lot more than 4, but
it is what it is,
it is what it is. You live and learn. With this 5-stack, Dirk McGirt, Clancy, Locio, and Dank Ranger, were any of them rookies or their first season of CSC?
Yeah, all of them.
All of them.
Yeah, it was all their first seasons. No team play experience by any means from any of them, and I think that's what made it, like, probably I think they had the most fun because of that, because they're coming under someone who's played a season, and especially because of the role that I was taking, that probably helped it as well. I wanted to give them the easiest segue, and I think they did great for it. But yeah, it was all their first seasons, and to be honest, like, I think they all played fantastic. So really proud of them.
This is all of their first season, so they're all rookies technically. So you guys did prosper a little bit more on the Puggy maps.
Right.
If all five of you guys were to stay together for next season, what different maps would you like to implement in your pool?
Yeah, I think in Recruit, as the time has gone on, like, almost every map is played. Like, I think almost every map is in most people's pools, which is really interesting, especially because of last season. Like, everyone had the same 4 maps, and like everyone had the same 3 instabans. I think the only map that's like not played is Nuke, and that's just because the only recruit team that loves Nuke is Frog. Uh, and so I think like Nuke would be a map I would want to learn. I think Nuke is just a really tough map to like ask, four DEs to be like, let's play this and like let's learn it because, most of your games that you're playing in Face It or matchmaking, you are not Nuke. So,
Yeah.
they're probably not gonna know enough, and it's not even about like utility knowledge on the map because anyone can go sit and smoke practice for an hour and learn all the smokes. It's more of like how the map flows in every situation. So I think that's the hardest thing to get in practice with 4DEs, who probably their three most played maps, which I was right because I asked them, would be Mirage, Inferno, and like the occasional overpass, right? So it's really tough to like expect 4DEs or anyone to be in a first season to play anything other than those puggy maps. But to be honest, I'd probably keep our map pool like relatively similar to what we saw this season. A lot of Ancient, a lot of Anubis, Mirage, Inferno, Overpass, Vertigo. I hate Nuke.
Something that you want to learn more, but not necessarily add to your
yeah.
pool.
I mean, I would learn it if I had four other people also want to learn it. So because I think that's your job. As a caller and things like that is to like if your team is telling you, hey, I think we could really be good on this map, like let's learn it. And I have to go and learn that and be comfortable, be able to call on it and things like that. And Nuke is just a map of like, could I do it? Yeah. But do I want to have four other people suffer while I'm doing it? No. Unless they want to suffer, then let's do it. Let's suffer together.
Very good statements there. I'm thinking more combines. When you guys do get new DE players, it tends to stick a little bit more towards the puggy maps.
Absolutely.
Inferno, like you're saying, Inferno, Mirage, and the occasional Overpass. Every now and then it's a little shake up and you get thrown in Ancient, but with all the DEs coming kind of basically from MM or matchmaking, they like to kind of stick to their familiar.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you get signed to a team, and then the team's like, hey, we played on Inferno, Mirage, Overpass, and whatever else. Let's play these non-played matches, Ancient, Anubis, all that stuff. And so you get a lot of teams that do like to go Ancient, Anubis. Frog was trying to throw a wrench in things and take people to Mirage because it's kind of unsuspecting almost.
Yeah, I agree.
It was more of a agreed not to play this map, and then probably Frog banned the other map and threw him on Mirage. So I haven't looked at all the stats. Obviously, stats are messed up from CS2. Hopefully, the stats committee gets to fixing things.
I know they're working on it.
So I can have more detailed stats here instead of 0-0 against Nan.
Agreed.
For all you guys being rookies, and this is your third season with a 5-6 record, I mean, you really can't beat it too terribly there. So
yeah, I mean, I had the expectation, going in, like, for just myself, especially because I had 4 DEs, to be 500 average, so like basically just right on the money, as many games as I win is as many as I lose, and I was one short, and it could have really gone either way. So I mean, in my position, like, I did what my expectation was, like, to just be realistic, because it's very tough to ask 4 DEs who have no team play experience to just be catapulted into like a killer team, and strength of schedule really takes effect there. If you just get stomped your first 3 games by some of the top teams, like, it's very hard to come out of that. Props to Nan for actually doing that this season, which is kind of insane.
Your first game against Hell, you guys lost. It wasn't a blowout. It was 16-13. The next game against OS was 13-9 that you guys won. During that time, if you remember correctly, were you still playing with a FA?
At that point, we had our 5.
Okay.
And then we drafted accordingly, like, on a FA rather than having a player we drafted. We had like 2 games that we had to have on, and then we had the IR, and then we had another.
Your full 5, and Brass was part of the full 5. What? And then you guys won against Miss, or you guys lost against Miss, but again, it wasn't a blowout. 13-11, two rounds, so not a major blowout. Your next win after OS wouldn't be until AP,
Right.
and then that was a blowout on their end at 13-5. At that point in time, who was on your roster for that one?
It should have been that's with Low Seal, but let me double check.
Low Seal. Okay. Did you have your permanent 5 during that game against AP? Okay. When did you guys decide to let go of Brass?
That would have been that game before, so that
UPS game, 13-8.
Yeah.
You guys played the Harpies and won 19-16, so that went to double overtime. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that was a pretty tough
triple,
team.
wasn't it?
Was it triple?
Double or triple?
It's MD12, so it's first to 13. So I think it could have been triples. So that was just a tough game that you guys played. That was the toughest game that it looks like you guys played. I guess you guys did 16-13 against. What was your thought process during that whole match to kind of reel it in and to kind of throw it into your guys' favor in order to win that match day?
ATL and just having Crash go and kill 2 people, or Bud would go and kill 2 people, and then you have to adjust to that. And I think that's what kind of made their T side pretty strong in that game.
You did bring up you had to take a mental reset. With IGLing, it obviously takes a huge toll on your mental. How do you stay positive for your team, and how do you not tilt, I guess, in order to show it in front of your team?
Not tilt, even if you are losing, for calling and things like that. It's just keeping your, emotions high and positive, but not everyone can do that. It kind of comes down to personality and if you're able to or not.
Like I had said in the previously, glass half full kind of guy right here. But I know Kev does do it a lot where after every round he'll congratulate Poutine or Drop. When I was watching their Nuke gameplay, Kev was streaming that Nuke game, the famous bang against the desk heard around the world. But they pulled it together after that. They locked in. They were able to get that. They were down, and Kev. I remember Kev just kept saying, "We're better than these people. We're better than these guys.
Yep.
We're better than these guys." Just boosting the morale, which is very good for an IGL. Going through the IGLing mental state, coming from a player who did have an IGL that tilted a lot, the mental was exhausting because I constantly felt like I was fucking up. I felt like I was doing something wrong and I just couldn't fix it, and then didn't want to help improve on anything. Gave suggestions but never really sat down and helped improve. So IGLs having good mental is a big role in the game in general. Like you're saying, hyping people up, just giving them that little bit of ego boost that they would need to peak that up and make Jeff miss that shot, so you can potentially get that kill, and hoping that nobody's there to trade that, because that's very important. Now looking at these matches, you guys blew out Patty Planters, to be expected. You guys 16-13 against Sav, being the champions. How does that make you feel? Do you feel like if it was you guys, if it was AVI instead of Frog in the finals, do you think that would have been a close match, or do you think that would have been a blowout?
To be honest with you, I think we should have won that game, that Anubis game against them. That wasn't our optimal Anubis, to be honest with you. And even still, we brought it within 3 rounds. To say that if it was us instead of Frog, I wouldn't say we would have done any better. And there's always the potential, but it's also the fact of like Sav, because it came in, understands anti-stratting to the T, and there's no shot that they pick Anubis when we either A, would have beat them on it, or B, made it so close. So they would have just picked maps that they know that they maybe have an advantage on us on and things like that, because Sav was a really strong team on basically every map in the pool, which is all power to them. So I wouldn't say that if we were there, it would have been any closer or anything like that, because Frog was also really close to beating Sav in their match in the matches, if I'm not mistaken, I thought. Or maybe that was the 13-5. I know that they did play, and I don't remember how much of a difference.
I don't know if these stats are correct, but it looks like they played on Mirage and Vertigo and lost both 13-10. So I mean, still close matches.
Yeah.
I should probably post interview with Kev for a quick little snippet. Maybe I'll give him a little bit before asking him to do that. But yeah, it was a close games. He was hoping that it wasn't 2-0 swing in one way, but it just boils down to that, like you said, came in having that anti-strap.
Yeah, I really do think, like, I mean, I was watching the games, for the finals for them. Their Vertigo was heating up, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't even say came out of the woodwork, because like they've been good players all season, but without stats, you don't really know unless you're watching the games. But like they just came out and dominated in both games, which is shout out to them, because they did not get the recognition at all this season because there weren't any stats. But I really think like if the two of them weren't playing as good as they were that night, the games would have been very different, in my opinion. But even still, like, I think they put up a good fight, and we'll just have to see what it is next season, whatever the two teams come down to.
I haven't touched CS2 in a month and a half, possibly. I saw that there was a 3 gigabyte update. Do you think that they've updated enough that it feels a lot better than what it used to feel like?
Yeah, I mean, I think CS2 is kind of at like, I'd say it's at a pretty decent spot now. I think what makes it better is now, workshop maps are back. We have our aimbots back. If you didn't have the money to pay for refrag, things like that. Like, you have these workshop maps back and things like that to practice on, and I think that's just going to make it better. Like, I think that, to be honest with you, I think that 3 gig update, just messed with subtick a little bit and made some map changes, but I think it feels good. I don't feel any bad on it. I feel pretty comfortable, just like how I was towards the end of Go. I think at this point it just comes down to now syncing your hours into the new game, rather than the people with 3K hours, but you have 3K hours because it was all on Go. Now you have to play the new game.
A completely different game there. So I think I've only sunk 100 hours into 2, if I were to guess. You are part of the State of Recruit analytic team, so that is going to be some VOD reviews. We were talking about that earlier, because you do them, your team doesn't really quite do them together. Do you think doing the VOD review for the State of Recruit will help you as an IGL in the long run?
Oh, I mean, I'm told this to Crash, so I'm doing what I'm going to do anyway. So if anything, it's just going to be even more helpful, because I'm going to VOD review, our own match, and then the team that we're playing against and things like that, maybe some other games. But now it's now I get to VOD review, if I don't always get to VOD review mine or whatever team I'm playing, I just get to watch other teams play in the tier, and it's just going to help me in the future regardless. So yeah, I mean, that's why I took it, because of that.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing exactly what I was going to do anyway, but I get to do it here and help.
It was Jeff that was interested in the position, but then he said that just being part of the team would take up too much of his time. But with you saying that it's just something that you're going to do anyway, so might as well throw some numbers at us and help us out a little bit. We really appreciate that. I think we have 13 analysts on.
Yeah.
15, including Crashing. But I asked him, I said, does that mean we really have to sit there and analyze stuff? He goes, technically not, but I'm still going to do it. And I said, that's fine you're more than welcome to, man. I guess I'm taking the spot on the editor side of things because we desperately need those things. So
there's enough of us to help.
This has been Inside the Mind of Noah, IGL for AVI, second season of CSC, going into his third.